Hi guys, and welcome to AirAbility, your regular dose of lead therapy. And today I'm suffering in my shed for my art. It was minus 6 degrees last night, and after an hour of my diesel heater banging away, it's barely made 12 degrees. But today I'm going to be talking about pellet lubrication. And what made me think about doing a video about it was this. My friend Keith, and you can come and meet him in the AirAbility Facebook group. He makes all sorts of aluminium stuff. I've also made a video about him and all the work he's done for me, and the link's in the description. He made me this aluminium puck, and when you take the lid off, it holds my sponge that I use for lubrication. What I basically do is I put the lid in the base like that, and it's like a big old 1970s ashtray. It's absolutely solid on the worktop, and I roll my pellets around on the foam before I use them. Now, you know, I've been wanting one of these for a long time. I was using tin lids and all sorts of plastic pots and stuff before this, but I decided to indulge, and Keith did me proud. Thanks, Keith. Anyway, so thought I'd talk about you know, lubricating in general. What I will say is it's like pellet testing. It might work for some barrels, it might not. It might work with some pellets, it might not. This is a journey that you've got to do, and hopefully this will give you the information to start out on your journey of, you know, testing pellets with and without lubrication to see what suits you. Now, the first question I get asked a lot is, what pellet lube do I use? And I joke and I say I use unicorn tears. And the reason behind that is, one, I don't want to divulge the recipe because I essentially mix my own. And two, it's going to be easier to get the recipe out of me than go and finding some unicorn tears. You've got a fat chance, really have. But anyway, I'll try and explain what I can. There are commercial pellet lubricants out there that work really well. I found that they were slightly too sticky and clogged up the barrel a bit for me, and promoted barrel cleaning in some cases, and blah blah blah. So what I've done is I've added another lubricant to thin the commercial pellet lubricant down, and it works better for me. And when I use the sponge like this, it doesn't make my fingers all sticky. It lubes the pellets nice, you know, well, and it works out. Now, you've got to be really careful when you're mixing things. First of all, I don't advocate doing it yourself. Use a commercial pellet lube for two reasons. First of all, if you use the wrong type of lubrication, you can promote a reaction in your barrel called dieseling. And dieseling is where the pellet lubricant actually ignites in the barrel with the pressure and the rubbing of the pellet. And this can cause two main problems. One, it's a mini explosion. It can promote erratic, illegal muzzle energies in your gun. You must not do it. You know, it doesn't do any good whatsoever because it also destroys accuracy, because it's completely random what it does. And secondly, it can damage your barrel, your seals, and everything else. So, you know, under no circumstances should you try and promote this on purpose. The signs of dieseling are your barrel smoking, because basically it's burning the oil off as it goes down. You must not do that. So you've got to, that's why, another reason why I don't tell people my recipe, because it doesn't diesel, but I don't want to be responsible for other people having problems with the seals, the mechanics of the gun, etc. I'm confident it works for me, but I don't want to be responsible for other people. The other point is when you're lubricating your pellets, however you do it, I find less is more, very small amounts. Don't gunge them up, you know, be sensible. And so basically that's about it really. Why don't we have a closer look? I've done a little video on how I go about actually physically lubricating the pellets, and see what you think. So a lot of people ask me how I go about lubricating my pellets and why I do it. Now, I will say again that this method of lubricating your pellets is probably only suitable for Benchrest shooters, because you couldn't carry your lubrication round in a tray if you were, say, shooting HFT and in the woods and things. But as I told you before, Keith has made me this wonderful holder for my foam that I use to lubricate my pellets. So how I do it is, I take the lid off like this, and the top goes into the lid, and it makes a really sturdy base for me to put my foam in. Now this, you know, it's like a 1970s ashtray. It's really heavy, quality made, and it makes it pleasurable. And odd things like this make my life very happy. I love things that are well made and are fit for purpose. Now, as you can see here, I have my unicorn tears, and I've explained before what my unicorn tears are made out of. And how I do it is I put a couple of squirts of unicorn tears onto my sponge. Now this bottle was full and it's taken about 2 years to get to this point. I use very little and I don't actually lubricate my sponge every time. So then what I do is I get the sponge and I crunch it all up as tight as I can to spread the lubricant around the sponge evenly. I then place the sponge back in the holder here, and then I add some pellets. Now, when I'm shooting in a Benchrest competition, I tend to push all the pellets that I'm going to use towards the back here, and I lubricate them one at a time by rolling them forward like this. Can you see I've rolled one forward? And then I put it in the barrel and I shoot it straight away. So that's basically how I use my pellet lubing tin. Before I had this, I had various sorts of tins and lids of things. I didn't have a custom made one. It was, you know, you can use anything, but you know me, I like to have the right equipment for the right job. And Keith did me a grand job indulging me in making me this one-off pellet lubing tray. Now, another way of lubing your pellets is to actually pre-lube them. Sometimes you can put some lubrication in a Ziploc bag, add your pellets, roll your pellets around, tip them out and put them away. Now, I store my pellets in tins like this once I've sized and weighed them, etc., before a tournament. Now, why I don't lubricate them at that stage is 2 reasons. I don't know how long they're going to be stored. They could dry out. Secondly, pushing them in the foam wipes the lubricant off a little bit. So I like to know exactly how much lubricant's on each pellet. And by doing it this way, by rolling it on the foam, by controlling how much lubricant's on the foam, I know exactly how much lubricant is on the pellet when it goes into the barrel to be shot in a competition. And it's not being wiped off by these foam trays. What I will say is lubrication isn't suitable for all guns, all barrels. You've got to test it, and you've got to test different ways of lubing to see what's right for you. But another point is, you need to remember, if you lubricate wrongly, you do too much or too little, you can actually make things worse. So it is trial and error, and it's much about learning about what you need to do yourself to get that consistency with lubrication. It's not just slapping it on and hoping for the best. It's a skill in itself, lubricating a pellet. Well guys, I hope you found that interesting. You know, and I will warn you again, don't mess around with lubricants that can damage your gun and do silly things. This is not what pellet lubrication is about. It is about promoting accuracy in your gun. And remember, you can only make sure you're promoting accuracy in your gun by doing an absolute load of testing to make sure that pellet lubrication is right for you and your gun. On that note, I'm going to say bye-bye. And guys, remember, get out there, keep living the airgun dream, take care, and see you next time.